Digital Ascension Group, you guys can see the company behind me. I'm the principal there, and really over the long term, right now our main focus is family office, wealth management, private client services for people that have large allocations to digital assets. But over the long term, we want to be involved in a lot of different progressive tech. So whether that's AI or space or quantum or robotics, there's a bunch of different technologies that are going to be converging. I've talked about this book before, but if you haven't read The Future is Faster Than You Think, I would highly recommend that book, just so that you can understand the different things that were really on the precipice of adoption as early as 2018. We're here 8 years later in 2026, and we're starting to see regulation around all these things. AI is a big piece of that. You had David Sachs as the AI and crypto czar there for Trump's cabinet, and now we have Patrick sitting in the crypto side of things. I don't know that David is just moved on specifically to AI, or if he's moved into a different role and away from government affairs. I'd have to go look at that, but I know Patrick's now kind of in the seat driving the crypto discussion. We've got, the Clarity Act being marked up this week. Exciting to see that. We've got a lot of large banks and Ripple there in DC tomorrow having continued conversations around that. They did pass the markup with no Democratic support here recently. So unless they do get some Democratic support there in the Senate, I think it's highly unlikely that you're going to see the Clarity Act passed in the short term. Patrick, when he was talking on a podcast the other day, actually it was at Ondo Summit, he mentioned April 3rd is kind of the latest date for which he thought that might get passed. With midterms coming up, I really don't know. If they aren't able to get traction with the way that it's currently written, it may take much longer for that to get passed through as the focus shifts to midterms. And if the Democrats do win enough votes in either the House or the Senate, I do think it's probably going to get much more difficult for the Clarity Act to get passed as it's written. And I do think that there's a possibility that it'll get segregated. I think that the DeFi component of that may get stripped out and voted on later through a separate bill. And you might see just the Clarity Act around the CFTC and the SEC and what their oversight is on when it comes to digital assets. So, allegedly, this person says on TikTok, I think that there's probably going to end up being 3 different crypto bills. We had the Genius Act passed, which is great. That's going to provide demand for U.S. Treasuries for stable coins here domestically in the U.S. when the reverse carry trade unwinds. I've been talking about that for a long time. We do have conflict over there in the Middle East continuing to escalate. We've got like 50% of one of the larger aircraft that the Navy has there in the region. Big deal. You've got Russia continuing to remove people from that region in anticipation of conflict escalating. Airspace and other things have been shut down. Lloyd's of London has increased the cost of insurance to move through the Strait of Hormuz. If that strait gets shut down, well, I shouldn't say if, I think when that strait gets shut down, you are going to see escalating oil prices there in really globally, but I think most dramatically for Japan, which we know is kind of the catalyst for the reverse carry trade unwinding. If they do decide to raise interest rates aggressively, you're going to see bond yields spike, and you're going to see a rotation out of U.S. Treasuries into the Japanese bonds that are issued by the BOJ.